Once upon a time, in the bustling city of Lagos, there lived a young woman called Bisi. Bisi is a 35-year-old woman who has done everything to find love, but she hasn't been lucky with the type of men coming her way. Even though she has a good job, all the men she meets are always after what they could get from her. The people around the neighborhood would often gossip among themselves when they see her with other men. They would often say, she must have a bad character, and that's why no man wants to marry her. She is too full of herself. Her beauty is getting into her head, and they are very judgmental towards Bisi. Bisi would often cry secretly in her room, wishing that the right man would come her way, but it always ends up in disappointment. One day, Bisi was going to work in the early hours of the day when it began to rain heavily. She stood at the front of a shop to wait out the rain when a car stopped beside her. The driver honked for her and asked her to get in. At first, she was scared, but she had no choice but to hop in because the rain was getting heavier. She thanked the kind man, who later introduced himself as Toby. He collected a number when he dropped her at work, and from that day, he would always pick her up at home and drop her off at work. He would also call her regularly, professing his love for her. But BC told him she wasn't ready for any relationship. At first, BC did not take Toby seriously because of the series of heartbreaks she has encountered in the past. But Toby pestered her so much that she had to give in to dating him. Moreover, Toby is her ideal kind of man in every way, and she would definitely love to be his wife. After she agreed, the two began to date, and Toby was totally different from all the men she has met. He's caring, loving, and spoils her with lots of gifts. She began to thank her stars for meeting Toby, and she began to think of starting a family with him. But after 3 years of dating, without any sign of proposal from Toby, Bisi began to get worried. She wondered if Toby truly loved her because he has never mentioned settling down with her. She doesn't want to come out as being desperate, so she avoided the marriage discussion for a very long time. But after 3 years and counting, she feels that it's time for her to know her place in Toby's life. One evening, Bisi invited Toby to her place for a date night. She created a romantic atmosphere and ensured that Toby was comfortable enough. She began by appreciating his kind gestures and all he has done for her over the years, and she promised to do everything in her power to always make him a happy man. She then asked Toby to define their relationship because she has been concerned about it lately. Toby was surprised at the question Bisi asked. He told her that he expected her to understand their relationship because he never mentioned anything related to marriage to her before, neither has he taken her to his house. He told her that his wife and kids were in the US and he will be joining them soon. Bisi was heartbroken. Tears streamed down her face as Toby shared the devastating news. Toby was surprised that Bisi could be having such an idea in her head when he believed they were just having fun. He apologized to Bisi for not saying anything about his wife and kids, but he claimed that it never crossed his mind because he thought she understood their relationship. Bisi sat there on the chair, crying. She felt used and betrayed and did not know what to say. She got up and opened the door for Toby. She told him to leave and never call her number again. After days of thinking and crying, Bisi decided to live her life to the fullest, regardless of being married or not. She became a new person as soon as she made this hard decision, and the people around her began to wonder what could be happening to her. She gave a few men a chance again, but they kept breaking her heart over and over again. But since she has resolved to live her life to the fullest, Bisi did everything to ensure that she wasn't really affected by whatever the men in her life did to her. 2 years later, Bisi celebrated her 40th birthday, and her friends and family were present to make her day a memorable one. Her mother, who has always been on her neck to bring her husband to her, could not stop crying and praying for a good husband for her beautiful daughter. Her friends also were breathing on her neck, asking her to do something quickly about her marital status now that she's 40. But Bisi was not concerned about that. She had another plans. She had determined to live her life how she deems fit, and she has a plan to make that a reality. The next day, she went to an abandoned and motherless baby's home to adopt a child. Bisi has the financial means of taking in a child and training the child rather than waiting for a man that may never come her way. She also believes that with a child around the house, she could think less about a husband and live her life to the fullest. A few days later, she completed the paperwork and adopted a cute little girl of 5 years old, baby Shola. Bisi's joy knew no bounds as she began to bond with Shola. She would prepare her for school in the morning and pick her up on her way back from work. Weeks passed and the people around the neighborhood began to gossip again. They wondered why a single unmarried woman would adopt a little girl that young. What if the girl's mother comes for her? What would she do? Why would she even adopt a child? Which man would marry her and the girl? But BC, who was concerned about making an impact in Shola's life, paid no attention to them. BC, now saddled with the responsibility of raising Shola, refused to give any man a chance in her life. She feels a certain kind of peace as she takes care of Shola, and that is enough for her. She is scared of giving any man a chance to rule a relationship with her adopted daughter or cause her pain again. Moreover, Shola is a very bright and intelligent girl, and she always wonders what would happen if she's no longer in her life. BC also enrolled her for a private lesson, and the effect is very evident on Shola. She wants the best for her baby, and she's not going to let any man take that away. 5 years later, Shola was all grown, and she sat for her secondary school entrance exam. She came out in flying colors and got a scholarship to one of the best secondary schools in her country. At this point, the pressure from BC's mother became too much. When she shared the news of Shola passing her secondary school entrance exams with her mom began to cry. She wants Busy to settle down quickly and have a child of her own. Her friends also advised her not to give up on finding love and getting married because Shola may decide to go back to her mother, who abandoned her, and she could do nothing about it. Busy began to think about it too. She wondered what would happen when Shola became an adult and decided to go back to her parents. The fear of losing Shola and being lonely again engulfed her, and she began to think of trying to go out on a date. A few weeks later, Bisi met a man, Geoffrey, in the mall. She reluctantly gave him a card after he paid for her groceries and they began to talk. He showered her and Shola with so much love, and she decided to give him a chance in her life. 2 months after dating him, he proposed to her on a sunny afternoon as she sat in her office, and Bisi was very happy. Even though it took so long, she was delighted that a man finally thought her worthy of being his wife. She said yes and accepted Geoffrey's ring. She shared the news with her friends and family, and they were very happy for her. Soon, they began to plan the wedding, and it all seemed like a dream to Bisi. She began to develop cold feet at some point, but her friends assured her that the right man has finally come and that she should stop being pessimistic and only think of how to make her wedding day a memorable one. Everything was set for the wedding, and Bisi was very happy. On the wedding day, Shola bought a lovely gift and a thank you letter for Bisi, and she shed tears as she read the letter. She hugged Shola and praised her for always making her proud. The people at the event became teary at the bond between the mother and her foster child. Weeks after the wedding, Bisi would go to work while Geoffrey would stay at home. He told Bisi that his work is flexible and he could go to the office at any time. But Bisi began to suspect that there is more to him idling around the house for close to 8 weeks. Moreover, a particular scary looking man comes around the house and it makes her uncomfortable. The man comes around whenever she's leaving for work. Although Geoffrey had told her he was his business partner, Bisi knew something isn't right. One day, she started a conversation with Geoffrey. She asked him to tell her the truth about his employment status. And Geoffrey, after beating about the bush, confessed that he lost his job months before they met. and he took a loan to get married to her. According to him, the man that comes visiting every day loaned him the money, and he has been on his neck to make him pay back. Bisi was surprised. She felt betrayed. She recalled that she spent more than 50% of their wedding expenses, and it baffled her that Geoffrey would deceive her into marrying him when he can't even take care of himself. It then dawned on her that Geoffrey deceived her and lied to her to get married to him. Meanwhile, a few days after their marriage, Geoffrey had asked Bisi to take a loan to enable him clear his container seized by the customs officer, and she did without thinking twice. She believes he is her husband, and his success is her success too. She asked Geoffrey if that was a lie too, and he replied that he did it to enable him to spend money at home as the man of the house. She asked him to send the remaining money back to her, but he replied that he gambled it all away. He explained that his friend suggested that he gamble with it, and when he wins large, he would pay us off his debts and still have enough money for business. Bisi got up immediately. She told him that her company loaned her the money and she would lose her job if she doesn't pay it. But Geoffrey began to plead. Bisi began to cry as she asked him why he would go to such an extent to destroy her life. But Geoffrey assures her that he would find a job and become a better person for her. Bisi left him there and ran to her room. As Bisi sat in her room, she began to wonder how Geoffrey could be so deceptive to the extent of marrying her based on lies. She cried and wished that it was all a dream. She realized that sadly it wasn't. The thought of getting divorced after waiting for that long broke Bisi's heart. Rather than divorce Geoffrey, she decided to help him since he looks remorseful. Some nights later, after Shola had gone to bed, she began to talk to Geoffrey. She asked him to tell her exactly what he wants to do with his life so she could help him. And Geoffrey replied that he wants to open a restaurant since he's a good cook. Bisi agreed that he would make sales because he cooks well. Days later, Bisi sold a car to pay off the company debts and she rented a shop for Geoffrey. She also bought all the necessary equipment for him to start his restaurant business, and Geoffrey promised not to disappoint her. Geoffrey began to run the restaurant business, and Bisi was happy that people were patronizing her husband. 3 months later, Bisi got back early from work to find Geoffrey sleeping on the couch. That morning, they had left home together, and she wondered what Geoffrey was doing back home. She tried to wake him up, but found out he was heavily drunk. She moved away from him. She began to wonder what could have happened for Geoffrey to be heavily drunk because she hadn't even seen him drink before. She dashed out of the house and went straight to the restaurant to see things for herself. But when she got there, she found it locked up. And when she asked around, the people told her that the last time her husband opened the shop was a month ago. Bisi was shocked. She did not know what to do or think. As she walked back home, she wondered why life is not fair to her at all. She wished she could turn back the end of time and never agree to date Geoffrey, let alone marry him. She knew at this point that Geoffrey cannot be helped, so she decided that she would have to divorce him. But when she got back home, the scene that met her shattered her entire being that she felt like killing Geoffrey immediately. She met Shola in the pool of her own blood crying. Geoffrey was sitting on the couch with his pants down and is having more drinks. He asked Bisi to join him as he staggered towards her. Bisi shed a tear as she rushed towards Shola. She lifted her up and rushed outside. She locked Geoffrey inside the house and rushed Shola to a nearby hospital. Shola tried to explain that Geoffrey raped her, but Bisi asked her to save her breath. She apologized to her for not being around to protect her. Bisi admitted Shola and went straight to the police station. She explained what happened and Geoffrey was arrested. He was charged with 17 years in prison for rape of a minor and attempted murder because Shola nearly lost her life during the struggle. Weeks later, Shola was out of the hospital and fit to go back to school. Bessie really felt bad that she had to go through such an experience before she realized that marriage may not be for her. She decided in her heart that she would never think of getting married again, and she would take great care of Shola, and it wouldn't bother her even if she ends up leaving her when she becomes an adult. But in a surprising twist of events, Bisi's boss, Obi, had just gotten out of a bad marriage and he was no longer productive at work. He had just found out that his wife of 15 years slept with a married ex throughout their marriage, and none of his three kids were his own. Whenever Bisi goes to his office, he would always be lost in thoughts. Bisi had to do the bulk of the work at the office to keep it running for weeks until her boss got over the heartbreak. One night, they were both working late when emotions began to fly and they got intimate. Bisi was ashamed of herself. She avoided Obi for days and refused to go to the office. But after 3 weeks, she began to observe some changes in her body. She wondered what could be wrong as she gets tired easily and would often feel dizzy. When she took a test, she found out that she was pregnant. Bisi could not believe it. She was very happy to be pregnant even though she never planned it that way. She decided to inform Obi, knowing that the news would make him happy and bring him out of the outbreak faster. True, Obi was overjoyed by the news that he began to cry. He apologized to Bisi for what happened that night and he asked her to look beyond that and get married to him. Bisi accepted his proposal and he was very happy. A week later, he paid a bride price and they had a low-key wedding, attended by their friends and family. And Bisi, Obi, Shola, and their unborn baby lived happily ever after as a family. This story teaches us to never give up in our life's journey. And sometimes we may have to go through some series of events before we get what we want. It is called timing, and everyone's time is different. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.